I don't know what happened. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Typical Skeptic podcast.
Background. Here we go.
I have another fascinating guest with me today. Today we're going to be getting into all kinds of stuff like spirituality based. I saw this woman on an episode of Leak Project with Rex Bear, and they were testing out aura goggles, which I'm going to talk to her about today. To see if they worked or whatever. And who I'm talking about is Ellen King. But then I found out she does a lot of things that relate to my channel. Like she does past life regressions, and you guys know I've had a couple past life regressions done. And then she does the Marcel Vogel crystal healing techniques, which I've had Dan Willis on my show, so I can really relate to her with that too. She's also a researcher of all occult topics. Ellen is passionate about the journey of discovery and sharing her findings with others. Following the synchronicity of the moment has become her daily practice. Forever curious about the world, she remained open to all types of information, including many topics about most people would shy away from. Occult books and videos are a large proponent of her path in becoming autodidactic, and even by diving deeper with her profound hidden knowledge of the world, she has had many revelations that tie seemingly separate events together. In her website is www.wellenb.com, WELLENBE.com, www.ellensart.com. She's an artist, by the way, if I didn't mention that. And her art's amazing. And then she has the Era of My Ways YouTube channel. And then she has another YouTube channel as well, which we're going to get into today. But Ellen, thank you for joining me. How are you?
I'm great. Thanks for asking me on your channel.
Oh no, it's awesome. Yeah, there's so much that I relate to you about. Like one thing I wanted to get into first was kind of some stuff that you've been covering on your YouTube channel. Like I was trying to figure out, do you work with the Museum of Tarot, or what is the Museum of Tarot? Like is it literally like it says a Museum of Tarot, or what is that?
They are obviously into occult things. They have some devices for sale. I bought the aura goggles last year, and they're basically just the ones that help you see auric fields around different objects. And it has different color spectrums. This kit that I got was like the researcher's kit, and I think it's about $300, and it has different lenses that you can apply to two different goggle sets. And like I said, it's not the same ones that are used in the military. That doesn't have the capability of electric, like light spectrum going through the lens. So it is just a lens, and it is supposed to have the design and dye in it. But one of the things that the Museum of Tarot has recently is they've created a device that increases the psychic capabilities of people. And for $60, they have a kit that you can buy and put this thing together. I guess they have a video on how to make it. And you can join their research team because they are trying to do this grand experiment with the population out here. And they've got things, there's all the information's on their website. And I was actually going to join that group as well.
Well, I'd like to do that because I'm going through like a spiritual awakening right now. Like I was telling people on my videos, like, like my pineal gland's been tingling in my crown, and then like my intuition's been going up. I can't do readings for people just yet, but I feel like I'm coming into like my psychic abilities. So maybe that would be definitely something worth looking into. Would you say, or?
Yeah, absolutely. So I myself am going to be looking into that. It is not something that you inject into your body. So it is something that you would attach, I guess, around your head, and then start experiencing these different frequencies, I guess, that are going into your pineal, possibly. I don't know, but it's all electric. And with this new awakening, we're going into the age of Aquarius, which is an air sign, which is why everything is going into the mind, because mind is of what the air is. So it's like Mercury in a way. But this whole notion of us going on into a digital world is also part of that journey that we're going to be going into in this age of Aquarius that is rising now. And that's why we're seeing all this chaos in the world. We're on the cusp of two ages. So the crossover between Pisces and Aquarius, and all of the energy is now shifting. So this great awakening is happening, and it's going to be, instead of the I believe, it's going to be I know as the theme. So it's a fascinating time to watch all of this. Like, everybody's coming into their knowing, they're more interested in spiritual topics, they're becoming aware of spirit instead of just a religion.
I know I wasn't going to say this, but the other night, listen to how crazy this is. This is an insane story. I thought I had a spirit in my podcast room here, and like the other night, like I fell asleep. I have a futon behind me, and like I just laid down. I was listening to, again, I always listen to like binaural beats at night. I listen to like some chakra clearing stuff, or I mean, it just depends on what I'm in the mood for. I usually play like two or three different ones at the same time. I really tend to enjoy the binaural beats, subliminals, affirmations. I like to listen to Art Bell too, so it's always a toss up for me. But anyway, so I was listening to, like, I think it was like I was from Quadable Integrity, which they have pretty good binaural beats. And I was listening to like their chakra series or whatever. I just let it play in the playlist, and I laid down and I woke up in the middle of the night, and I have a Discord group. Like, one of the people from the podcast started it for the people that watch my show. They know this. What happened was I woke up in the middle of the night and something was touching me, but it was weird. It was like, I'd love to get your opinion on this because you seem to know about this stuff. Like, I would get a touch like here on the back of my arm, then on the back of my leg, then in the top of my head, then in my foot. And it felt like it was more, didn't feel like it was malevolent. It felt like something was playing with me, but still I got freaked out. I got so scared. I jumped out of bed, like, and I was like, what the heck? And I just said out loud, I was like, stop. Because I didn't know, I had no clue what it was. But do you think more of that's going to start happening to us, that those are awakening? Does that sound familiar, or like, what do you
Yes.
think?
Yes, absolutely. So the thing to know, you have more power than the shadow realm does.
What's the
And
shadow realm?
shadow realm is the spirit realm. It's the fourth dimension we cannot see. It's just out of our visual spectrum. So the fourth dimension, those beings are in what we would know as the shadow realm. And because we're in the age of Aquarius and we're starting to learn about all the foundations of our reality again, we're going to be learning about Saturnian things. Saturn rules Aquarius and Capricorn. So we're in the dark ages of spirituality and our spiritual knowing. And we're coming into the great awakening of things. Saturn is the shadow aspect of our world. It is not what NASA has been telling us. It is a cube-shaped energy, which is a platonic solid that is similar to what the Earth is shaped as in the platonic solids. So Plato came up with these different sound frequency shapes, and he talks about them in his work. So if you go into the platonic solids, you will see that Earth is cube-shaped. This is a sound frequency. And this is what we're about to know about all of the planets. And the only planets that matter are 7 of them. The Uranus, Pluto, and Neptune were added by the Romans, and they are all related to Greek gods and the Greek pantheon and Roman pantheon of gods. So those do not matter when you get into the magic practice and stuff, occult teachings. They don't teach you about those planets. Those planets were added to our timeline to kind of, I think, muddy the waters a bit. But when you learn about Saturn, it's a deep, deep, deep well of information. I have not found the bottom yet of what Saturnian energy means.
Well, one thing I know of is that I watch a lot of Tinfoil Hat with Sam Tripoli, and I know he talks about on there in the conspiracy realm. People talk about like these people that worship Saturn, and I guess there's like the black suns and stuff. And I think you covered that a little bit on your YouTube. Am I off there, or what? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know exactly what you're talking about because, yes, Saturn represents the shadow aspect of our realm, or the black sun. The black sun is what the Nazis were into. They were into all of the knowledge that's hidden in our world about these technologies, all of this stuff. They raced around the world, taking up all of the technology from the ancient sites. These were all in Atlantis's timeline that they were, taken up, and they were rebuilding and reverse engineering all of these technologies for their benefit. And so we're now trying to catch up with that information about what they've done to try to suppress us so they can remain at the top of the game, which is the world game right now. And we're going to know about all of this. And these other beings are actually here. They've been here all this time, but a lot of them do not try to interfere with our own evolution of mind, body, and soul. So that's where we've got this whole grand scheme of UFOs and all this stuff going on.
I wanted to get your opinion on what you thought about what was going on with the UFOs and the extraterrestrials, or if you think they're more of like an interdimensional thing. I mean, here's what I think. I think we're definitely being visited by something. Like, I think something's checking out humanity, and they might have been abducting people at one point. Like, or maybe they still are. I mean, what are your thoughts on the? Because what made me think of that whole thing was when you were talking about Saturn. I thought of the extraterrestrials because I know someone that comes on my channel talks about the black suns, and he said that black suns are also like an extraterrestrial group, or people think they might be. It's like a conspiracy theory. Have you heard that? And then to follow up on that, what are your thoughts on the whole extraterrestrial interdimensional thing?
So my take on it is this: if anyone is curious about truly knowing the construct of our world, and this is what science is actually proving today, is that we live in a holographic universe. And the universe, when you get into etymology of words, you really start to comprehend what everything means. So universe, one voice or one sound system. So that one sound system is what we are residing within. But there's many different substances from the one sound. And it looks like everything is separate, but it's not. It comes from one. So this knowledge of Yggdrasil and the Norse cosmology of our world is actually now gaining ground, because I do believe that there are people in Hollywood who wish to impart or re-trigger our memories, our lost memories, but our memories are in our cells. They're in our DNA. This is why the DNA is like the currency of the universe. When you control the DNA, you can make literally anything in this existence. So that's why they did this big DNA grab. But the Saturn, people need to learn what Saturn truly means. And I've been digging, and I could not believe this rabbit hole that opened up once I started really looking into the occult symbolism and what Saturn truly represents. It is not what NASA has been telling us, which is NASA. NASA is a deceiver. It was made with the Nazi scientists that we brought from World War II, Project Paperclip. And we need to rethink about some of this stuff. Like, look at the images. This is just a suggestion. I'm not going to be like the person who, puts it out there completely like, oh, this is sold. I'm sold on all these ideas. But look at the images. Go look at how many different images they have of planetary bodies, Earth from space. They're all different. They're all based on an artistic rendering from different artists. And different artists have different perspectives. So you're going to see many, many, many different images, and they're not going to be the same. If you think about it, I took an astronomy class in college, and I saw Saturn through the telescope in Atlanta. Let me tell you, it didn't look like anything that you've ever seen in NASA's images. Nothing. And I was so disappointed when I saw it. It was just a tiny little light, kind of shaped like what they talk about, you could kind of see the outline of it, where there's like a ball in the middle and then a little outline of an oval around it. I'm like, that's it. I'm like, where's all these brilliant colors and all these, you can see the ring details, and no, there was none of that.
So wait, I got a question. I didn't want to. I'm sorry, I'm interrupting you.
Yeah, no.
Thought, but what do you think about the people who wrote the book, The Ringmakers of Saturn? That there's supposedly like some extraterrestrial race made those rings. I mean, do you think that's something to throw us off from Saturn, or do you think there's some reality to that?
I'm not. I'm still on the fence about that, because Norman Berggren wrote that book, The Ringmakers of Saturn, and he was an astronomer, and he was saying that he saw these large ships making the rings. Was he a hired disinformant? I don't know. I can't prove that. All I can speak from is my own perspective, my own experience of what I'm discovering based on etymology and what Saturn actually represents to these occultists. Because I bought the book, The Cult of the Black Cube. It's a book that was $75, is a limited print, and it's in its second printing, but you can find the PDF online and you can start reading about this. And they use Saturnian energy to summon these things, like to do things, to ask the god of darkness, because that's what Saturn is. They ask the dark god for favors, but you have to give offerings to these entities. And I swear I'll leave that, but it gets into the human trafficking and all that other stuff.
I was going to say, well, the Saturn worship is the satanic worship, right? Like Saturnia means satanic. That's where they're getting this, where all this satanic stuff's coming from, right?
Yes. That's Lord Satan is Lord Saturn. So I caution people who talk about the Lord. Lord is not a Christian term. It's not a term that should be associated with the God of light, so to speak. The God of light does not try to control people. There's a lot of overlay in what we know of as religioning the minds. When you go into the foundations of all religions, it takes you back to Canaanite. Canaanites were cannibals. They became cannibals, and they were making sacrifices to Baal, the bull god of Taurus, the age of Taurus. And this is where all of this notion of Baal earth, Baal this, Baal that, that's where Baal comes from, like the ball, you play ball. Do you know that this is something really interesting to look into? The basketball design is actually an alchemical symbol for Terra, earth.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Look at that. And when you get into alchemy and you start looking at the old alchemical symbols, your mind just starts going, what? I've seen that. You're like, oh my God. Freemasons, for example, that's their symbol can be found in the alchemical language of symbols, because symbols is a whole nother language people need to learn. And it is it's not antimony, it's arsenic, which is related to Saturn. And Saturn is death. Saturn is Chronos, father time. What we're talking about is an overlay. We come in from a heavenly light realm. That's why we have the 7 rays or the 7 color spectrum inside our body, and that's the 7 chakra system. We can ascend back up into that heavenly light realm. But Saturn is a dark overlay, a shadow aspect of our world from the duality of light and dark. And the dark aspect exists below the ground as well, because we can't see what's below the ground. This is where shadow government, terms like shadow government, black operations or black ops, anything black, anything shadow. When you see these words and terms, it's important to know that they're basically indicating Saturnian stuff, Saturn's energy, Saturn's cult people, all of that stuff. I mean, they have been using this language right in front of our eyes, blatantly in front of us, and we haven't really been listening and paying attention. But now's the time to learn to pay attention and to know what all these aspects are.
I was just going to say they reverse everything. When you said that the basketball was a sign of the earth and everything, it made me think of when Gerald Clark talked about. I don't know if you followed Gerald, but he used to go on Leak Project too. He died. He was a really good researcher. He talked about how when the Mayans would play this game where they would put a ball through a hoop, that was signifying the time that we basically now that we would be going through the center of the galactic Milky Way, and it would possibly change human consciousness. I might have butchered that, but that's kind of the gist of what Gerald was saying. But then it seems like we live in an upside down world, and this kind of ties into what you're saying, because then I think they tried to say that the Mayans were using human heads to play that game. So you don't know if they were using a ball and they were more benevolent, or if they were using human heads. But like, what I was saying about the Saturn stuff too is everything gets reversed. So we don't know the real truth. You have to do like real research and digging, kind of like you have. Otherwise, if you just get the mainstream knowledge, it's like upside down world, right? Or you know what I'm trying to say?
So I this is what I suggest suggest, for if people truly want to know where we've been and where we're going, this is all you can do, is go into etymology of words. Like Jordan Maxwell really put my feet to the path of looking into etymology of words, looking into symbolism. What does symbolism mean? Every color that's out here also represents something. What does that mean? And the things that they were doing around the world, they were bringing in this energy by sacrificing beings, any kind of being. If you sacrifice anything, you're working with darkness, because you're taking a life and you're performing a ritual. So we are now all part of the ritual of Saturn. Look at the cube shapes everywhere. Look at the cube shaped in front of your face. Look at the phone. Look at the TVs. All of this stuff. These are Saturnian devices, and they're black mirrors because they have a shiny surface. You can divine into the future, the past, the present. Also, when you hit the button to bring up the numbers, that's a magic square. They are bringing in black magic with everything that we have around us. And the Algol rhythm. Algol is getting into demon star stuff. So we need to talk about this. What does it mean exactly? Oh, well, you start learning that in Saudi Arabia and in their Arabic nations, Al-Ghul was a dark spirit. What are we embracing in this technology? We are embracing dark spirits. I have seen my computer do things, and obviously listening to me, because they're always listening to us, right? So I heard recently, just a few days ago, someone suggesting that all of our technology is tied to dreamland over in, the military, deep, dark, dumb, military underground base thing. And that would also, if it is tied to dreamland, that is also a reference to Saturn, because he is the Sandman and he's the purveyor of dreams. He rules anything of darkness. That means when you go to sleep at night, because at nighttime is also Saturn's realm, anything dark, anything black, anything dead, all of this is in the Cult of the Black Cube book, about what Saturn actually represents. That's why I say it's very important for us to know what this all means. It's just a dualistic aspect of our world, and they are harnessing the frequencies of Saturn through all of the sigil magic that is employed all around us, the chaos frequencies that we now live within, because everything around us has a frequency. We need to start considering that all shapes, colors, designs, drawings, even 2D imagery, you can make your own sigil magic. But if you look around you, your mind goes, oh my gosh, we are swimming in chaos fields of energy, instead of what the Tartarian narrative is revealing about the Atlantean timeline, which was the age of Gemini. And it was a balanced, beautiful, harmonic world with all things of life and light, which is why it's part of the Golden Age, is the beginning of the Golden Age, the age of Gemini. And all of those buildings were resonating with the alchemy of the four elements and the ether. The ether is the most important, because that's where the realm of spirit comes down through. And we can utilize and harmonize with these frequencies if we get back to natural based frequencies, cotton clothing, putting our feet on the ground. All of these things are very important to our life force energy. So we're employing all these things. We have rubber soles on our feet that are separating us from the connectivity of the life-giving essence of Earth. And then the foods that we eat, they're being poisoned by the Saturnian worshipers. All these things we have to start considering, because it's affecting us. And it's so much, it can be overwhelming to people's minds. But when you really just start to digest even just a little bit and say, oh my gosh, let me start thinking about how I can truly bring in beneficial fields of energy into my world. Think about the colors, the color spectrums. Number one, green is green for a reason, because it's operating at the frequency of love, which is the heart chakra. The heart is earth. They put the H at the end of the word, earth. So you put that H back in the front, it says heart. And that's resonating with fields of love energy. But then you have, the stones and all this are representing the earth energy. Water is also part of yin. And then you have air and fire principle, which are in the air. They're the protons. They're the positive energy that's coming down from the heavenly light realm. And they're connecting with the lower realm of earth and water. That's the negative electrons. And it's all a battery. And we've forgotten this knowledge because we've been taught chemistry and man's math and all of these things that don't make any sense most of the time. And it's hard for us to listen to it. So if you get back into the natural, God-given math and alchemy, you start going, oh my gosh, it's so basic. It's anything that people can understand, really. It's easier to understand. So yeah, it's a lot.
That's fascinating. Let me ask you this. I'm like, where are you doing a lot of your where are you getting a lot of your research? Because this is hard to find. Are you going deep into like old books or like because I know my audience would be love to hear I mean, this sounds like stuff that like some of the stuff I haven't even heard before. Like, so it's amazing stuff.
Yeah, so the easiest thing for anyone to do is get into yin and yang, what it represents. The yin and yang is a profound tool for knowing our existence and knowing that everything operates in a dualistic fashion. When you have too much yang energy, then you need to add yin, which is rest. Yang is the active fire principle. So yang is this. Yang is the four elements. And the four elements are in yang, it's going to be the air and the fire principle. This is the male principle. That's why fire is a pyramid or fire in the middle. And then with yin, it's going to be the opposite. The opposite is the water and the earth, and it's going to be the negative polarity, which is a vessel or an upside down pyramid shape. Now, you overlap those two pyramids, what do you get? You get what they call the Star of David, which is not the Star of David. They're telling you that they're thieves, basically, that they have taken something very sacred to all of the countries around the world. And I have all of the clip art and everything. I've been collecting information as I go along researching. So I have all of this information, and I'm going to be uploading my 4 Elements and More video so that people can go over this again because it got buried. I did this interview with Rex Bear on Leak Project sometime last year, and it gets buried amongst all of the other videos that we upload. So I'm going to go ahead and re-establish that, like re-upload, so that people can start looking at this because it's foundational knowledge. And it's imperative for us to have this foundational knowledge so that we can know who we are, what this actual existence is, and where we're going. Because if we're following a story and we're not doing our own research, we're only following someone else's narrative. Whose narrative are we following at any moment? Because somebody's writing the story, and they always have been. But if we go backwards and go, wait, I want to go look and see for myself. Because if you're following a story, it's just a new story for the new age. And I don't follow the story anymore. I've learned to just know I'm going to ground myself in foundational knowledge. I'm going to look into astrotheology. Let me turn off my my little virtual background, and I'll show you a book that I have with me. I was actually going to be using it in a class. Let me reverse my screen. This is The Light of Egypt. This is a book basically on astrotheology, and it is foundational knowledge about our world and what we're basically doing here. Like, it goes into what the science and spirit of the stars truly are, and it is not what we've been told. And it has everything to do with your spirit and its connectivity to that heavenly light. A lot of knowledge there.
Yeah. Like I don't understand astrotheology. I've had Micah Dank on my show before. He explained it, but the way he explained it, he made it sound like that it was mostly like that they were doing this to understand like crop cycles and stuff like that for when to plant their crops. Like, is there like I mean, and maybe I didn't go deep enough with him. I probably didn't because he's a pretty deep dude. Like, but or maybe I don't remember. But like, what are your biggest takeaways from astrotheology? Would you say?
Astrotheology is what all of the alchemists of old, we're talking about Plato, Ptolemy, Pythagoras, Aristotle, all of these other, there's not just them. They are great legends, great minds, great philosophers. All of these people, Paracelsus, they were learning about the world and what it truly imbibes, what it truly means, what is it exactly. They're working with alchemy, they're working with what we call magic. It's not magic, it's just knowing about how the tetragrammaton matrix works. The tetragrammaton matrix is the flower of life. And I mean, I can show you some images to help you kind of think about it, but when you know the celestial alignments and you can read them like a book, then you know what's coming, you can predict the future, and you can read the past. And that's what the zodiac stems from, is astrotheology. And this is part of the knowledge, the lost knowledge of our world that has been suppressed by fear. Through fear and the foundations of killing people, because that's what all of these, the religions were doing, is they were going around, marching around with the Inquisitions and all this stuff. They were removing the knowledge systematically from the minds of the people. But of course, it just got fractalized, compartmentalized, and it's just in pockets around the world. And now it's starting to coalesce again to where people have foundational knowledge and knowing how to plant and live by the moon cycles, because that's what we used to go by. The Gregorian calendar is a calendar, it's actually a script that the Vatican wrote. That when you write a script, when you write a storybook, and you said, this is my timeline, and everyone who is born in this timeline, they're a part of my story. They have now included you in their story, and you are a character in their story. That's how they can now own and operate your birth certificate that they put actually on your afterbirth instead of you, a living being. They said, no, you're a dead entity. That's why your names are in all caps. I mean, it goes into so many different levels. That's what I'm saying. Like, so deep, all of this information.
Yeah,
But
because I was going to say the Persians, or the Iranians, they don't follow our Gregorian calendar,
no,
right? Because they don't follow Rome, right? Because they're
neither does
different.
India. There's other places they don't listen to our Gregorian calendar, which is Roman. And it was basically a way to control people, to take over and dominate their lives, their existence, and to profiteer off of them, because money is black magic. And if you reverse the word money in the mirror, you will see that it says venom across the but we don't really think about all this stuff.
Yeah, well, I was going to ask you what you think I don't know if you ever saw this, but I'll go back to Gerald again, Gerald Clark. He did a video one time. He was just showing an article that like the Vatican had a statue of Moloch delivered, and I was thinking, and he was like, and he gave his explanations of what he thought, like, but I was thinking like that kind of shows you kind of what they're doing right there, because I believe Moloch was a god that had people get sacrificed to him, like, or he would ask for sacrifices. So it's weird that the Vatican at one point would have that delivered, and I would have to go back and find the video. It's a shame Gerald passed away, but I mean, it's on his channel. But what do you think what do you think the symbolism was of that, if you had to guess?
So Moloch is also a bull god. It's important to know that Baal, which is bull in I think Sumerian, it began during the age of Taurus. They are still working with astrotheology. This is why they have the foundations of our reality and we don't, because they systematically removed it from our knowledge. The foundations of that are in the zodiac. You can find it in the zodiac. Let me share this for a moment, so that way you can you'll be able to see what I have.
Yeah,
Let me
I
go
let you
back.
have shared screen sharing or whatever.
Let me I'll go into my documents first and find this, and then share it with you, because I talk about this a lot on my channel, this one astrotheology chart. Because once you learn this chart, you can begin knowing about the symbolism of everything. So here we go. I'm going to just show this. This is my favorite astrotheology chart because it shows the yin and yang in the center. Very important to know the duality and what it represents. Now, in astrotheology, the external world is attached to the internal world. which is why there is a physical body, a human body attached to all of these astrological ages. The astrological ages just represent cycles of time. These cycles will return after 26,000 years. You will see this moment again where we're experiencing this great awakening. It will happen again. It might be slightly different from what we're experiencing now, but it's going to happen again and again and again. And each cycle is about 26,000 years or so, give or take, because when you go into Veda astrology, it's different. This is Western astrology chart, but the Vedas actually go by the celestial constellations, and the constellations are bigger and smaller depending on the shape that they represent. But with this one, this Western astrotheology chart actually is a seasonal type of chart. So we're in the iron winter, which is Iron Man. The symbol for iron is the same as the male symbol that you'll see on the restroom doors sometimes. So iron and man are equal. And we have iron in our blood, which is why we're in the iron winter. And we will imagine we will change our blood type as we progress through these other ages. We'll go through the autumn, which is bronze. We'll get into silver, which is moon. And then we'll get into gold, which is spring. We start to actually acquire more light and more knowledge as we get around to the golden spring. That's why it's called golden spring. That's why we have the pyramid symbol over here, because it's going to be represented with the mind elevated to a very high degree. But we fell. This is the great fall of man. As we fall from the consciousness from Aries, the highest state of Aries, down to the feet, we then have and experience the fall of man, where the memories are wiped. You know, all of the collective knowledge is lost because of the wars that begin right here in Taurus. Taurus is where they started doing this worship, these sacrifices, all of these things. That's what Baal was representing. So Baal was the sun in Taurus. That's why it has this symbol right here is a circle. It's very similar to what this is. The circle with a dot in the middle is the sun, is the alchemical symbol for the sun, but it is also the symbol for gold, which means a heart of gold. You know, everything golden, as a golden time to be alive, but at the same time, they're warring. They began the wars because Taurus energy is earth energy. It's everything in the material world. We fell from Gemini. Gemini was very important because it was about air. It was about mind. And this symbol right here, there's two equal signs that are equilateral, basically means equality, all equal. This is where you get the buildings that look like this symbol that we're calling Roman. They're calling them Greco-Roman. They're not. They are Atlantean buildings. And this is what they knew is the sacred geometry of our world resonates at particular frequencies. It is also considered the Stone Age. When you hear scientists talking about the Stone Age, they're talking about this. And this is the time when people had stone houses because it had the best frequencies. They knew that cotton, white cotton specifically, and natural wool garments, things of a white nature, were giving off a particular frequency. And they knew that it was life-giving energies because white encompasses all light forms. So it was a very beautiful time to be alive and to witness all of these wonderful things in the world. But then we got into Taurus energy, and right here, and this highlight is where the division began with the two mind sets, the two states of mind. One is of war and one is still of trying to bring in the light, but they're warring because of the belief systems are now splitting. They're no longer unified in their consciousness. Now they're having this division, which is why there's two horns in a bull's head. And the bulls, you know, bulls love to like clasp horns. Sometimes they go after other things. They want to charge and fight. And Aries is the same thing. So then you get two rams clashing together because the two trains of thought can't get along, and they're not meshing anymore. So you have this symbol for Aries right here, which is supposed to be ram's horns. It actually looks like a fountain of knowledge in two different streams as well. So
I have a question. So,
sure.
so since this was all established, do you think that that our reality was somewhat all predetermined to a certain degree? That like
Yes.
they knew that we would be going through these cycles, so they made whoever they is. Like, what do you think?
Yes. I should say, there are beings who live for thousands of years beyond our own. We've known this from just listening to stories in the Bible about people living 600 years or 900 years. And then, of course, you have the myths and legends about the giants and the Hyperboreans. The Hyperboreans were heavily spoken of by Pliny the Elder in the Greek philosophies of old. Plato and some of those also philosophers, they also spoke about the Hyperboreans a little bit. The Hyperboreans live at the center of our world. And that's why I suggest that, maybe we're not really I don't know about believing. Some people believe that the earth is a globe. It's a ball. It's a ball. I don't believe in a ball anymore because science has even determined that we live on two toroid fields of energy. One is spiraling clockwise, one spiraling counterclockwise. That coincides with what the Yggdrasil narrative is, and they show it in 3 different rings where there's the dark underworld beneath us. We live in the middle plane, which is Midgard or Middle Earth, and then the heavenly light realm, which is Asgard. And that kind of overlays better in our world, honestly.
This is amazing stuff. This is fascinating. I'm trying to think. I don't really have any questions. Wherever else you wanted to go with that, like, but I'm learning so much today. I really am. Well, I wanted to ask you this though, but I don't know if you were done with talking about this stuff. But I was going to ask you, like, does this tie into your work as a past life regression therapist or working with the crystals? Because I know you do that. I know I've had regressions done, and I'm a little bit skeptical. I am, but I am open minded. I mean, one of my friends does past life regressions too, so I believe it. Like, but like, do you believe we can gain like insight into like our past lives and from doing the regressions? Is that why you practice it, or what are your
Yes.
thoughts on that?
Yes. So I listened. So I was listening to many different videos like you and many other people. I listened to many, many, many different people speak because I did work in Hollywood studios and I was working behind the scenes on sets and things. And I had a lot of time to waste, basically. I mean, I liked being educated while I was working. So I would try to tune into the longest video chats, anything that was of a scientific or spiritual or even UFOs or other beings or other worlds. I loved everything that was, woo woo and far out. So I would listen to the longest sessions of people speaking. And I came across so much information. And when I came across Dolores Cannon's work about past life regression therapy, I came across her work in about 2016, and I listened to her for a year and a half. And I said, you know what? Is this real? I was like, can this be real? And then I finally said, you know what? I'm going to take her class. I'm going to take the class. And I'm going to see if this is real. And hands down, it blew me away, because when you come across Dr. Masaru Emoto's work about consciousness in water, and then you come across people like Marcel Vogel who talk about how crystals actually can retain memory and they hold unlimited amounts of memory, that would include water. Then it's like, okay, now it makes more sense. The DNA is actually a carrier of memories because it contains water. So after I had my first few sessions, I was blown away. You could not make up some of this stuff, because as I came across different clients, one would come in the beginning, like, and then 3 months later, I'd have someone completely different, from even like 20 years different from the person who came before. And for them to have a similar story and to be like basically in that story together, but they don't know each other in this lifetime. I was like, you gotta be kidding me right now. But you can't make this stuff up. And then having my own personal experience, because I was a practitioner and learning about, what is inside of myself from people, practicing on me, it overlaid exactly what my beginning phases in my experience here as a child was, and why I was so painfully introverted. It explained so many things. And I said, you know what? No, I'm sold 100%. I'm sold, because when you look into people who can astral project, for example, too, basically when you astral project and you go outside your body, any thought you think, if it's a place or a person, you're instantly there, and you instantly see them, or you're there at a different place instantly. You think a thought and boom, it happens. So it's the imagination that we have not been taught to trust and to know, because the imagination is the creative force of energy that we can tap into and then pull it through. In Franz Barden's work of the Initiation in Hermetics, I have that book too.
That's a great book.
He begins to teach you how to use your mind with the 4 elements, using your imagination, using your intention. The intention is the magnetic force. It's a magnetic field of feeling. The feeling plus the imagination are the duality, and they co-create with the ether. So that's a holy trinity right there. There's many holy trinities that most people haven't been aware of. But that's really what it all means. And we haven't been taught to trust our imagination. We've been like suppressed. Even as children, we've been through indoctrination camps, they call schools, that push us into our left brain, which is more analytical instead of imaginative and creative. And that's why they got rid of all of the creative arts and all this stuff in the school systems. They were systematically breaking that down. Everything has been to stop this great awakening. Everything that's going on right now is still trying in vain to stop a frequency that is rising. You can't stop a frequency, but they've tried very hard. And so,
it seems like that's one of the things I was thinking about. I forgot. I wanted to ask you this. I was going to say, do you think as we speak right now, and just hear me out on this, like, do you think our future is predetermined? Because here's what you'll have a lot of people say, like, I totally agree with you. I think a lot of people are awakening. I believe it in myself, like with all this stuff that's happening to me, that my psychic abilities are turning on, and I could go on forever, but I really sense something is happening. And I think our consciousness is expanding too. So a lot of new age people will say that we're ascending to a 5th dimension. I would call it more of an expansion of consciousness, but some researchers thought that we could transcend or evolve into a higher state of being, with this certain time in life. But at the same time, we're amidst a bunch of chaos. Like, the world's so chaotic right now. So where do you think we're headed? I mean, it's not all like, I don't know what's the phrase I'm looking for. It's not all good, right? I mean, like, it's like, do you know what I'm trying to say? Do you think the future is predetermined, or do you think we still have to kind of put in the work? Do you know what I'm trying to say?
We still have to do. We come here to play a part. We are here as archetypes. This is what the Zodiac will tell you, is that when you get into Zodiac, you get into archetypes, and the archetype that you chose is what you're experiencing right now. And that is, you can find all this information in your natal chart. And that's why we don't know ourselves fully, because we haven't trusted all of this. But when something is absolute, someone wrote the playbook, and we come down to play these roles. So we're just acting it out. It's already preordained. But there is the free will to choose. And they say that every timeline, every moment that you don't choose a particular, option, that is being played out in another reality. And so we're dealing with people who have hacked the reality, who have come in. They have all of the tools at their disposal to phase in and out of timelines. This is how it's done because of the Philadelphia experiment that was put out. And Nikola Tesla was working on that. He actually was working on time travel technologies when he died. And that's why Trump's uncle, John, had gone in to get Tesla's documents because John was part of this. I guess he was part of, what was it? What was group was it? I forgot I forgot the group that he was a part of, but he came in to look at the documents, to see if there was any kind of threats to national security. And he's like, no, there's nothing to see here. But of course, they just took it. Yeah. And they've been building that.
I heard about that. I always wondered where but do you think the FBI ended up with those files, or do you think that his uncle got them? Like, I mean, what do you think?
Well, I think that, a lot of these people, these players that are out in the upper echelons of our society, they're fighting. There's a lot of infighting going because the ones who have been in power are trying to stay in power. But then there's those other oligarchs that are like, you know what, we see an opportunity to take control of this. But I believe it's all like they're almost working in cahoots with each other. And they know that this certain faction has to move aside, like with the Vatican and all that, that has to move aside. That's why there was this fake announcement with the Queen saying that there's a jubilee and all debts forgiven and all this stuff. Well, I believe that's coming because they have to change the game now. The game board is changing. Now we're going to the digital currency. That's why they have to forgive all of the debt with this fake money in the fiat currency system so that we can embrace this new digital currency. That's a whole nother ball game. But they're playing us in a way, but it's by design. It feels like there's someone at the very, very, very upper echelon, and maybe it's Saturn and maybe whoever the Lords of Light are, Asgard realm, or I don't know. And they're going, okay, Saturn, since you got to have rulership, you get to do so much, but you can't go too far, because they have to keep the timelines on point. You can't have an eternal timeline of Taurus, for example. You can't have an eternal timeline of Pisces. So there's got to be someone that keeps things in check. And I feel like that comes from the Asgardian realm or the light realm, or, Pleiadians, what they call Pleiadians. That's all in that kind of description. And even the Hyperboreans sound, when you listen to the descriptions of them, they sound like Pleiadians. So they're telling us.
Do you think this is related to the Anunnaki too? Do you think they might have like or do you think they were a whole separate race?
Well, what I don't really get is like why we're calling the Anunnaki a race of beings when Anu was one of the rulers. Anu was a ruler, Anunnaki. So Na is another word. And then Ki was earth, which is also equivalent to inner chi or ki and spirit. So I'm like, Anunnaki, they're talking about Anu of earth. So yeah. I don't see it as like a race of beings unless it's us. Because a lot of this stuff kind of turns back around at us, like in the past. So we've got to try to figure out, what were the people of the past describing? Was it just the people of that time, which would be us, because we progress through different lives? This is where this one guy, this is fascinating now, and I don't know the guy's name right offhand because I haven't delved into the research, but there was a guy, he was like a therapist, kind of like I don't know if he was a hypnotherapist specifically, but he was definitely into psychology. And he had heard about all of these cases where children were describing their past lives. And they were describing it with places and names. So he decided to go and research all the places and names that these children said that they had lived before. And he was finding truth in their words. So, over 2,000 cases he researched. And he said, absolutely, these children are telling the truth. Because he would find where the person died and, the different country and whatever the name was. And it coincided with what the children had to say. So the children are being born with the memories coming back in, trying to tell people. And we haven't been trusting what they say. We've been saying, oh, that's make believe.
I was going to say, I saw one where this kid thought he was a World War II pilot. And he was describing like how his plane got shot down and everything. And like he was crying when they showed him pictures of like that time era and stuff. And like, they checked into like what he was saying, and there was like some merit to it. So
Mhm.
I definitely believe that there's definitely something to that, right?
Yes.
I've heard that the year that they can remember up until they're like 3 or 4 years old, because after that point they start getting indoctrinated. But like
Mhm.
before that, their memories are more pure, it seems
Yes. Yes. This world starts to muddle the memories and it muddles the mind. They suppress the innate knowing. We come in as light beings, ready to solve the world's problems through our creative nature. But then we go through these indoctrination camps and they begin to impress and impart what they want us to believe into our minds. And then we suppress our inner knowing and our inner wisdom. So it's really unfortunate. We must listen to children.
Yeah, I agree. Well, I don't have any other questions. Did you want to share anything else today, or is there anything else you wanted to go over, or what?
Well, I mean, I can show you some images or something of some of the things that I've discussed. So the Yggdrasil narrative I do express is a very interesting overlay to our world
Yeah,
because it
that's
begins
fine. We
to
can do that. I have like 10, I have like about 10 more minutes I can go for. So yeah, if you want to do
okay,
that.
yeah, let me just pull up let me pull up some Yggdrasil stuff because it
Now, what is the
is
Yggdrasil? Is that the Nordic or Viking tradition?
yeah, so it's Norse cosmology of Yggdrasil. And let me go into my Yggdrasil folder here and see if I can find it. Let me show you this for a second. Let me see if I need to get the images up. And let's see, I've got some of the art. I'll show you what some of it looks like. So that way, yeah, this will do. This one's a good one. Let me share the screen. Okay, so we have different artists who represent, they try to portray Yggdrasil as it is told. And when you look at this, you have the lower realms. You even have Hell and Niflheim. Very important. Niflheimer is also expressed in the Bible as Nephilim, the Nephilim giants. This is the world of the dead. You know about necromancy and
Yeah.
necropsy and all these N words. I guess they're associated with all of this death and darkness thing, and hell, the realm of the dead. So that's what we're dealing with. We have this realm underneath the ground. This is why we have deep underground military bases. I do suspect, and if you get into the Arabic nations and the stories that they have about the jinn, the DJINN, the jinn, the genies that
Yeah.
you can summon, and they will do your bidding, but you have to give them something in exchange. What have they been giving them? They've been giving them blood sacrifices on a massive scale because that's what the military has been. The military has been nothing more than a lie to bring Niflheim up on top of Midgard Plain here in the middle.
Yeah, because I've heard
Um,
that those jinn are basically just like demons. That's what somebody said the other
yes,
day, that they're just
yes.
another form of a demon, or they could be the demons.
So they're also said some of them are the spirits of giants. And
Oh, wow.
if you get into all of the giants, they can be found in all these different realms, and they're elemental giants. Very fascinating. There's fire giants, frost giants, earth giants, and obviously Asgard is where or even the Hyperboreans could possibly be the light giants, the ones of light. So that would be considered air giant. So we are the ones to come after. And you've heard about Enlil, and Enki.
Yeah.
And I believe we're still talking about the same dynamic here, an overlay for this Norse tradition right here. Because you have the ones who love us and the ones who are jealous and hate us. This is the duality aspect as well, yin and yang. They're always going to be polar opposites in the world. When you learn the yin and yang, you will be able to solve every problem in the universe, or the one voice, one sound system. So that means food, your frequencies, everything. When you've had too much rest, you go to the active principle of yang and you balance yourself out. So that's a lot. But this is also, you'll find this in spiritual teachings. Looks very similar to Yggdrasil. The divine heavenly realm can also be found in the world of Eckankar. Eckankar begins to describe these other layers of light that are in realms above us. But we are here in this material plane, like down towards the bottom, but we have to have the shadow in order to have the material realm, because if you're in a light realm, you don't have shadow.
I love how this is like portraying, it shows everything that is in our reality. Like it has the mortals, the aliens, the ghosts, the demons, the demigods, the angels, the high gods, the high goddesses. And then who are the beyonders and the beholders? Do we know who they are?
Those are going to be above our visual spectrum, I'm sure. I mean, just think about it. If we are in 12 grades of school right now, going around the 12 zodiac houses, around the great wheel of time, it's 12 grades of school to evolve as a soul. And then you even keep going. So it's nothing more than a spiral. And I would suggest that that spiral is even going clockwise. This is why, the clock is constantly going from 1 to 12 clockwise. That's Saturn's realm. Saturn provides the time and the space for us to have this worldly experience. Because if we didn't have the physical form, we wouldn't have this ability to have a slow, tangible experience. And everything is slowed down and condensed into crystalline forms that are more, they feel more solid because we have the sensation to feel them. But in science, they say that no two atoms actually touch, so it's holographic in nature. And in science, they're actually saying that there's two toroid fields of energy that are meshed together. They're kind of connected at their base. And one is spiraling clockwise while the other one's spiraling counterclockwise. So one is pushing out energy, that's counterclockwise, and one is bringing in energy by circling clockwise.
That's
and this
interesting.
science today is now saying this, that it's, two toroid fields. And I do have more photos of that, and I can show you that real quick before you do have to go. Let me get rid of my chart. I'll go through my little thing real quick. Oh, I've got too many boxes open.
I wanted to ask you real quick about your trip to Egypt or Israel too. That definitely wanted to ask you
Yeah,
about that
so
too.
I actually went to Jordan, is where I went. I went to Jordan in 2018. I just took a break in December of 2018, and I said, I'm going to Jordan. I want to go see the Dead Sea, and I want to go see Petra. So that's where I went. I went out there by myself, but I did go with a group because I knew that, you don't want to mess with those Arabic people too much because they can be a little weird. But not to offend anybody, but I've heard some things and I'm like, yeah, better be careful. So I went with some people, and I went with a tour group type thing. And the tour, we went to the Petra, and I got to see the realm of the giants, basically, which these doors are about 25 feet tall. And I'm like, this is where giants reside. And absolutely, hands down, all of that facility was basically melted. You could tell that there had been some great war. And I suspect the Indra weapons, if you learn about Indra weapons, you learn about the things, the technologies that they had. And I don't know if it's atomic weapons or if it's something that, oh, there's Earth, by the way, basketball. That means Terra. It's a hyperbola. That's why it's a hyperbole. So it's two opposing tornadoes that create Midgard. That's why it's the cross and all this stuff. But yeah,
That's cool.
fascinating stuff. And as you can see, this is what I do. I just do nothing but research frequency. This is what our world looks like. We would be in the middle there, in between the two opposing tornadoes of energy.
Is this why our body has a toroidal field as well?
Yes, absolutely. Everything spins and everything has a polar opposite. So this is just getting into the key energy stuff. Yeah. Inner chi, get it? Energy is energy.
Yeah, I was watching a good a show I watched. They're a good conspiracy show. It's called Beyond the Veil. Have you ever heard of them?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, they had a Falun Gong practitioner on the other day. I guess Falun Gong is Falungong. It's like a Chinese. It's kind of like qigong, but like more. I don't know, but it supposedly opens up a lot of energy channels. I want to start practicing it. Like I heard that it really opens up some channels. Like, and I know other people that I looked into, they like structure. Like Gerald was big into structural integration, so I think a lot of that stuff can help like open up energy channels, you know?
Yes. So Tao, the art of the Tao Chi, Tai Chi, Tao Chi, that's all about learning how to move energy in your body. And I have this one, it was like the cosmic, let me see this thing. But this is the toroidal fields of energy that even science is talking about now. They talk about it's two toroids and it's creating Midgard plane, which is a hologram right in the center. That's kind of what we're dealing with. And that's not me making this stuff up. So it's just so people know. But here is the circulation of energy. Energy flows up the body and down the body. There's different channels. They're called nadis. And the inner chi is constantly flowing. When you touch the tip of your tongue to the roof of your mouth, you then create that channel of energy. It connects and manifests this entire channel that can flow the energy better through your body. So when you get into the art of Tao and the Tao way, you begin to learn the water path of pulling down energy from the light realm and flowing it through the body by sitting in a posture such as this, where you're sitting on the edge of a chair and you're manifesting and feeling this energy flow down from above, from the heavenly light realm. It's called the water path, if anybody's interested. The other path is going to be the path of fire, which is Kundalini energy, where you're pulling the energy from channels below, pulling them up to illuminate the consciousness at the crown chakra. And I have done Kundalini yoga, and absolutely the movements, because you're using the fire principle, which means an active yang principle. And that yang principle, you're going to be doing these circular motions clockwise and counterclockwise, because you're pushing and pulling the energy through the energy body and manipulating the energy while you're focused in meditation on your third eye. And you begin the pranayama breath work of breathing. You can do fire breath, which is dragon breath, and moving the different breath through the body, because you're activating prana. More prana is coming into the body with this fire principle, and you're shaking it up like a salt shaker. You're like, and it's starting to activate everything through all this spinning energy that you're doing. That's the Kundalini method. Now, if you're going to practice fire method, you do not practice water method, because you will clash the energies. This is the calmer way, where you're working with the water and the mind, and you're allowing the channels to go through your imagination. You're going through all the channels of energy, and you're beginning the breath work slowly. You're just rhythmically breathing in and out in a continual breath that does not stop. So it's like the tides. And it's just going to be a different modality to bring in and harness the chi or ki energy with the spirit. That's what this is all about. And we're bringing it back into the Western ideology of things, because it's still foundational knowledge found in the East, because the East is the land of the rising sun, and they're holding the energy of the sun, which is of light, for the rest of the world. Because to the West, we begin to go to the sunset. Sunset means that the darkness can take hold, which is where, they've really got a hold in this country. And it's all in all this occult knowledge about the foundations of our reality. But we got to bring it back in and get people back on page, because as we come online, and I'm going to go ahead and stop this share, as we come online in our consciousness about what we can truly do, we have been given and granted the godlike power of sound with our voice. most important, most powerful tool we could ever have is the sound frequencies. And the solfeggio scale, it's already been found in science that the solfeggio scale of the 3, 6, and 9 is a creative force, but as in all things, there's a destructive force. That would be 9, 6, 3. Going down the scale or up the scale. Up the scale is going to be creative, down the scale is going to be destructive. So those are the things we have the ability to do. And they created the English language to be a destructive language. We must know this stuff.
I just wanted to share my screen real quick and share your YouTube channel for anybody who's watching that might want to subscribe to your channel. I see you have the Great Awakening sign, and you have really cool videos. I'll go into your videos here just to show everybody. I watched the this one. I watched a lot of them actually today to try to get ready for this, but you have some really good stuff. Like, is that your podcast, The Nature Reality Radio, or is that?
Oh, no, that was on somebody else's podcast. So I got invited to somebody else's channel to have an interview, just like Rex. You know, I go on Rex's channel about once a month or so.
Yeah, he's pretty cool. I like him. He was a big motivation for me starting my show. Because he's been doing it since I think he's been doing it since 2015. I mean, he's been doing it a while. Like he's pretty good. He has really good theories too. I like him.
Yeah.
And then yeah, so and there's you guys checking out the goggles. Those those goggles like work out pretty well then, or what would you say?
They're really interesting. The colors are like very strange when you put the red ones on. I guess they're magenta, but you put those on and like the whole world changes. And you really need to be outside in the daytime with them because you can't see anything at night. When you put on the darkest ones,
Yeah.
you can't see. But yeah, I mean, it's going to start affecting your visual consciousness, like the things that you see. So that energy is going into your spirit and your spirit is learning from it. So everything is going to be a tool to start changing the neurons and the neural passageways in your mind to be able to see in other dimensions, I'm sure. These now, they do not have electrical capabilities, which I suspect will grant a person an ability to see into another dimension, which is what those other goggles did. Those night vision goggles, the original red spectrum that they had.
Yeah.
And that's what they talk about, is they were able to see demons in another dimension.
Well,
But
that's how I had Courtney Brown on my show from the Far Side Institute. He's seeing with the new cameras. The new cameras have infrared on them, and you're able to see UFOs. I guess it's like Star Wars up there, and we can't see it. You know, I've never personally seen it. I live in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and I go out on night walks all the time, and I don't see anything. But I don't have an infrared camera either, so you know, I don't know. I mean,
yeah, I've heard that you can see the UFOs in the ultraviolet spectrum because they're on a higher frequency band.
Yeah.
They're going to be above our visual spectrum. They're actually supposedly like right here sometimes, and we can't see them because they're out of our visual range of light spectrum. And the same goes with the ones from below. They're beneath our visual spectrum. So that's why if you have a red spectrum, that means you're seeing the ones in the lower dimension. If you're seeing them in UV and above, you're seeing the higher dimensional, the light ships. So I say that they're at war because they're trying to help us. The ones from above are trying to help us because they want to allow us our own place to grow in our consciousness and our awareness. And I do suspect that we are homunculi. Have you heard about the homunculus?
Yeah, the bigger head thing. Yeah.
I mean, it's not even necessarily bigger head. It's just created because Paracelsus was one of the alchemists that created a homunculi in a lab. And you can create a diminutive human with full body and everything through some paltry ingredients, you know, just putting some things together. You don't need to have a male and female, which is weird. But you just need to know the formulas and doing it in particular celestial alignments because it has power. And that's what I want to get into on my channel. I'm working on right now, mapping out. Are you familiar with Mercator's map?
No, what's that?
Mercator's map is a flat earth map from the 1500s, and it shows all these different realms outside around what they consider Antarctica. And then it has the central realm, which is where the Hyperboreans would be, basically, because it shows Mount Meru in the center. And then it has this thing, it looks like that game Simon, where you push the 4-color element. And I'm like, oh my God, the islands are shaped like that Simon game. So it's in 4 segments, but then it forms the cross, for the whole map. And on there, I suspect that they're not working with ley lines on Earth. We're working with star lines or star paths.
Yeah.
And I've already mapped where the Vatican is and where the UK is and where the United States, like the Washington, D.C. is, and how Washington, D.C. and the Vatican are on a similar star path. And I'm trying to overlap that with the constellation maps so that we can kind of get a clue on what they're actually doing. Because in Egypt, they're along the line of Osiris. The belt of Osiris is the way the pyramids are. It's because I suspect they're on that path of Osiris, like the Osiris constellation coming by, and they can channel that energy with the pyramids, which is fire principle, and pulling it in through the alchemy of the 4 elements. Again, I suspect that water was involved. And so water, fire, earth, which would be the stone, and then ether. And yeah, I mean, all this stuff,
I'm blown away. I've never learned so much. This is so much to take in one episode. I'm gonna have to have you back on again, because you're like you're literally a wealth of knowledge. Like when someone says that, like you really own that phrase, because like you really are have amazing knowledge. Like I'm so glad we did this. Like I'm gonna post this today.
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually compiling notes, and I'm going to probably write books because I've got to leave something.
You should. You definitely should. Because like a lot more than the average person. I'll tell you that. And out of all the guys, I usually try to do a show every day, and you're a lot more advanced than most people I have on my show. I'll tell you that. So you know a lot. I mean, I've never met someone like that knows this much. You're really advanced. Wow.
Just digging. I'm just a digger. I consider myself more of a spiritual concierge. Where would you like to go today? I'll just give you this, and you can take off with it. And that's I don't know anything. I find stuff and I put it together, and I'm like, oh my gosh, it's a map. You can put it all together like a puzzle.
You're like a rabbit hole expert,
Yes.
That's what it is. You're an expert in different rabbit holes. Like, like, I mean, we covered so much today. Like, I got to figure out what I'm going to title this, but I don't know. But do you want to tell everybody where they can find you? And thank you so much. Like,
thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me. Yeah. So, I mean, again, my website is wellenb.com, WELLEN. It's got Ellen in the middle, and then BE.com. And then also my channel, Era of My Ways, as he is also shown on the screen. But yeah, those are the main places you can find me. And I have my email connected to my website. So
okay, well, I'll send you a link today. I'm going to post this today. I'll probably set it for like 8 p.m. tonight, Eastern time. Okay. All right. Thanks, Ellen. Nice meeting you.
Yeah, thanks, Robert. Yeah, we'll talk again soon.
All right. Thanks. Have a nice night.